Yeah, so La Mer is a skincare brand. It's we like to call it uber luxury positioning. So it's really the top tier, and I believe it's still the number one luxury brand for skincare globally. So if you think about an equivalent in a different luxury industry like Louis Vuitton or Mays, that's the level at which the brand is really playing at, and the expectation and the benefits and the claims, and just also the craft of the product. So the brand itself, to give a little bit of a history, was actually founded by a astrophysicist, and he himself had suffered burns in his career, and he was looking for a way to heal himself. So he turned to the ocean. He found the power of giant sea kelp, and that's really the foundation of La Mer's ingredient. But what La Mer does differently than, I would say, other brands that use similar ingredients is that it's all about fermentation and the slow craft that makes it so potent and so effective.
Mm.
So that's really like the brand heritage of how it was
Yeah.
created and its reason for being. And really, it's all about a story of healing. So it's a really beautiful brand, pretty amazing story. And the brand itself is so connected and tied to the ocean. So
Yeah.
they have a really amazing conservation effort around ocean conservation. It's a big part of their ethos. So really pretty amazing brand. So it's special. It was fun to join, um,
Yeah.
both because I felt very personally attached to the brand,
Mm.
and I just thought it was fun to work on,
Yeah.
but because it was such a beautiful story to tell. And one thing that I talk a lot about with
Mm.
friends, with mentees, and just in general is that when you work in digital after a certain amount of years, you start to understand the tools in your toolbox and what works and how to use them together. And what I've always loved about working on the La Mer brand was working in luxury digital forces you to add a filter and makes the role that much more challenging because you can't just kind of use the same old tools because luxury is an art. And there's something really special about that, applying that filter before you hit send on any email because you're really building a brand. And brand equity is a core part of this
Mm.
business and how you stay connected to it
Yeah.
and maintain that positioning. So that's something that I've always really found extra special about working on this brand
Yeah.
and in this space that I loved.
Yeah, it's I'm interested to talk a bit more about this because like for people listening, La Mer is super expensive. Like I think you understated it. Like yeah,
Super
I
expensive.
don't know the
Uber.
price. Yeah, uber expensive. Okay, so it's not for everybody. And how do you sell such a product online? Like how do you? I'm curious because it's many hundreds of dollars per just
For one
item.
ounce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's absolutely super expensive. How do you connect with this audience online? How do you sort of run your e-commerce activity with when you are dealing with first of all a very niche type of audience who can who is able to purchase this kind of product, and how do you market to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's evolved over the years as e-commerce in itself as a platform. The consumer demographics have changed to shopping there. I tell you, the past year has been a drastic shift in those kind of buying behaviors. But more on a baseline, there's a few ways we have thought about it. We had considered e-com to once upon a time being a replenishment model. So really the hard sell and the moment in which you're converting for the first time for acquisition happens in store because it is skincare. You need to touch and you need to feel. So that's been a big conversation on how do you allow a consumer to feel with their eyes online and what does that look like and how do you get really creative. And there's an amazing creative team at La Mer that is constantly asking these questions. And it's really fun because for me, it starts to push into that tech world where it's almost like a UX question, right? It's beyond just branding. It's how do you really solve for these things and assist in that shopping journey online so they have the questions answered when they need them. Talking a little bit about customer segments, La Mer is a trophy brand. So that's what we like to say. It's that moment where you feel like I've made it or I'm treating myself and I now deserve this. So a lot of times we do hear in customer feedback or in stories just kind of shared that it's typically a milestone moment, whether it's you're getting married or you had a great job that you just landed. And it's like I'm going now is my moment. I have arrived and I'm buying La Mer. So that typically becomes kind of the mentality. And so when it comes to relationships on social media, and this is true for most luxury brands, there's also an aspirational buyer, right? So they're staying with you. They could be as young as like 22 years old, and they certainly don't have the discretionary and disposable income to purchase La Mer yet, but they love the brand and they aspire into the brand. They follow along and they engage with us. So that when that trophy moment and that I've made it moment does happen, we're that brand for them, even if it's in 15 years from now. So we maintain relationships and we have a very, very much maintain a two-way dialogue on our social channels for that reason, because we understand that they're not going to buy today. And we do have products, we call them little luxuries, that are kind of little minis that are a more affordable price point. So should they really want to step in or put it in their makeup bag, they can do that. But we know that they won't graduate into the true full sizes until much later. And we're okay with that because we think that in the long term, that lifetime value will be there because there's that brand connection. And that's really the customer that we look for and we maintain. And loyalty is a huge part of the La Mer strategy and that clienteling as a luxury brand.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So what you're saying basically is that the all the top of the funnel activity was like driving people to the store. Like you knew you couldn't convert first customers, or wasn't likely to convert first customers online. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, back in the day, now it's very different. Now
Oh,
it's
okay.
all about how do you still, that's still that mentality of what happened in store. How do you translate that or allow that experience online? I think most brands are going through that and reinventing themselves over this past year to how do you create that same experience or augment that experience from the store
Yeah.
and the same kind of level of service you get when you come in store and you're greeted and we bring you the hot tea and the warm towel and we talk and that kind of really high touch experience
Mm.
translated online. And you see a lot of the rise right now, especially in cosmetics, of virtual services,
Mm.
the Zoom consultations, sampler packs going out with kind of minis to create your regimen for the first time.
Mm.
So that's that kind of bundling and that high touch service is a new model I think you're going to continue to see over the next decade as
Yeah.
people come in store or their relationship with the store changes.